Stop scrolling for just 10 minutes. Because if you do what I'm about to show you, money will begin moving toward you with a speed and certainty that will surprise you. 10 minutes is all it takes to shift your inner state so dramatically that your outer world has no choice but to follow. For the next few minutes, you will discover a simple yet profound inner exercise that activates the flow of financial abundance. When practiced for just 10 minutes a day, it reshapes your consciousness, dissolves resistance, and invites money to arrive with ease. Prepare to experience the power of your imagination. Begin by withdrawing your awareness from the noise, the demands, and the constant stimulation that has pulled you in 1,000 directions throughout the day. Step away from the external world and allow yourself to enter a sanctuary within. Sit still, not as someone waiting for a result, but as one who understands that stillness is power. With each breath, you signal to your mind and body that you are returning to your center. The air moves in and out of your lungs not as a mechanical action, but as a reminder that life flows through you without effort. As you settle into this moment, notice how every external concern begins to release its grip. Thoughts that felt heavy a few minutes ago begin to drift like distant clouds. They lose their urgency because your attention is no longer feeding them. This silence you are entering is not emptiness. It is the fertile ground of all creation. It is the space where ideas form, where intuition rises, where the unseen whispers to the seen. Most people rush through life without ever touching this inner chamber. Yet this chamber holds the very blueprint of their reality. When you intentionally step into it, you reclaim the creative authority that has been yours from the beginning. Silence is not passive, it is generative. It is the condition under which new realities can emerge because nothing competes for your awareness. In the quiet, you are no longer reacting to the world, you are shaping it from within. As you continue to breathe deeply, feel the subtle shift that takes place between your thoughts. Those spaces between ideas, those tiny gaps of nothingness, are where your true power resides. What comes from the silence is always more potent than anything that comes from your restless mind. When your mind quiets, even momentarily, you open a door through which new possibilities, new wealth, new opportunities can enter. The external world may look the same, but your internal world has shifted into alignment with abundance. That alignment is what draws new circumstances, new people, and new outcomes into your experience. This 10-minute immersion into silence is not merely a relaxation practice. It is a recalibration of your consciousness. Wealth has always been available to you, whether you recognized it or not. But recognition requires receptivity, and receptivity requires quiet. When your mind is filled with noise, worries about money, concerns about the future, doubts about your ability to succeed, there is no space for intuitive guidance to reach you. There is no room for inspiration. There is no opening for the flow of abundance. But silence clears the channel. Silence wipes the mental slate clean. Silence invites wealth by removing the interference. As you sit in this quiet space, begin to feel a subtle awareness expanding within you. It is not loud, it does not shout, it does not demand. It simply rises like a gentle light illuminating the inside of your mind. This awareness is your connection to the infinite supply that surrounds you at all times. Most people never sense it because they rarely pause long enough to feel it. But you are pausing now, you are listening, you are allowing. And in this allowing, something powerful happens. Your nervous system relaxes, your thoughts settle, your emotional frequency rises, and your inner state becomes compatible with wealth. You are no longer resisting with fear or tension. You are no longer chasing outcomes from a place of lack. You are no longer scrambling to solve the problems of your outer world. Instead, you are returning to the truth that abundance emerges from within. Every powerful manifestation begins in silence, long before any action is taken. Silence is the soil in which the seeds of prosperity are planted. Nothing grows in chaos. Nothing flourishes in frantic movement. But in stillness, the invisible becomes active, and your desires begin to take shape. Stay with your breath. Notice how as your body softens, your mind becomes sharper. Not with stress, but with clarity. When you step into silence, you step into coherence. Your thoughts, emotions, and intentions all begin to align. That alignment is magnetic. It is the state in which wealth responds quickly. Money does not come to chaos, it comes to clarity. It flows to the mind that is calm, open, and confident. These 10 minutes of quiet allow your energy to reorganize itself into harmony with abundance. As you continue sitting in this stillness, you may feel sensations in your body, a lightness in your chest, a warmth in your hands, a soft expansion in your awareness. These are signs that your inner world is shifting. You are becoming receptive. You are entering a state where wealth no longer feels distant, but near, natural, and certain. The more you relax into silence, the more your old limiting thoughts lose their power. Doubt dissolves, fear softens, resistance fades. You return to yourself. The self that knows abundance is your birthright. When you give yourself 10 minutes of silence, you are not escaping life, you are reclaiming dominion over it. You are choosing to step into the level of consciousness where wealth is not pursued, but welcomed. You create space for insights, opportunities, and inspired ideas to rise from within. This inner silence becomes the foundation for every outward success. It is the source of the confidence, the clarity, and the prosperity you seek. In these 10 minutes, you become aligned with the wealth that has always been waiting for your attention. Assuming the identity of wealth is not an act of pretending, it is the deliberate choosing of a new inner reality. For 10 minutes, you release the version of yourself who measures progress by what the senses show. You set aside the part of you that thinks wealth is something external you must chase. Instead, you enter the version of yourself who already stands on the other side of financial abundance. This shift is not about imagination for entertainment. It is the conscious adoption of a new self-concept, one that carries the vibration, expectation, and certainty of financial mastery. Begin by noticing how often your identity has been shaped by past experiences, temporary setbacks, or old narratives about money. These stories may have taught you that wealth is difficult, rare, or reserved for the fortunate few. But the identity of wealth does not draw from the past, it draws from possibility. When you assume this identity, you are not relying on history. You are defining a new state of being. You declare inwardly, I am the one for whom money flows easily. And as you settle into that declaration, you feel the natural confidence that belongs to someone who no longer questions their financial worthiness. Allow the body to relax into this new identity. Feel the posture of a person who knows that their financial good is secure. Feel the calmness of someone who does not fear expenses, delays, or shifts in circumstance because they understand that abundance is not external, but expressed through them. You are stepping into the consciousness of wealth, and this consciousness cannot be shaken by visible conditions. It knows with quiet authority that reality will adjust to match its inner assumption. Notice the language that belongs to this identity. The old self speaks in terms of lack, waiting and hoping. I need more. I wish things would change. I hope something works out. But the self who already possesses wealth thinks from completion. I have more than enough. Everything I need is already provided. Money finds its way to me consistently. Let these inner statements naturally arise as you embody this version of yourself. They are not affirmations you force. They are the internal dialogue of the wealthy identity you have chosen. Now feel your emotional climate shift. The identity of wealth carries a grounded peace, a sense of stability that does not waver. There is nothing frantic or desperate in this state. Wealth expresses itself as quiet assurance. It feels safe, expansive, supported. Let these feelings fill your chest, your breathing, your awareness. Feel the emotional richness that accompanies the financial richness you are assuming. The more you occupy this inner environment, the more real it becomes, because reality always mirrors the dominant state of consciousness. In this identity, imagine how you move through your day. You are not tense around money. You are not shrinking yourself or second guessing your decisions. You navigate life with clarity and decisiveness. You recognize opportunities because your identity aligns with receiving them. You expect good news, unexpected income, and financial breakthroughs because these outcomes are normal to someone who sees themselves as wealthy. This identity does not ask, will money come? It knows that money is already on its way. Assuming this identity also means releasing the subtle tensions you may have carried around wealth. The fear of losing it, the belief that you must work harder than everyone else, the internal conflict about deserving more. These dissolve when you step into the self who already has what others are striving for. This version of you understands that wealth is not about accumulation but circulation. Money flows to the one who feels at home with it, who welcomes it rather than doubts it, who sees it as a natural extension of who they are. As you deepen into this state, imagine interacting with the world from this perspective. How do you speak? How do you respond to challenges? How do you plan? How do you interpret opportunities? The wealthy identity sees possibility where the old self saw limitation. It recognizes abundance in situations that once appeared scarce. It expects increase, expansion, and upward movement. This expectation is not forced. It is the natural outlook of the one who already possesses the reality you desire. Continue to feel the certainty that defines this identity. Certainty is the language of fulfillment. It is what separates desiring from possessing. When you assume the identity of wealth, you are stepping beyond desire into embodiment. You are occupying the state in which the desired outcome is no longer a goal. It is your present condition. And as you rest in this certainty, you stop looking for proof, because the feeling itself is the proof. You know that the external world will follow, and therefore you do not chase or cling. Let your imagination shape the subtleties of this identity. Feel how your breathing becomes slower, how your mind becomes quieter, how your energy expands. Wealth does not rush, it radiates. It does not worry, it trusts. It does not wait, it expresses. For these 10 minutes, allow yourself to become this radiating, trusting, expressing version of you. Immerse yourself fully in the inner state where financial ease is the norm. And as the practice ends, do not return to your day as the old self. Carry this identity with you. Let your actions, words, and expectations reflect the one who possesses wealth now. When you hold this identity even lightly, reality begins to reorganize to match it. Money moves faster, opportunities become visible, and external conditions shift because consciousness has shifted. Wealth begins not with action, but with identity, and once the identity is assumed, the results are inevitable. When you close your eyes and call forth a scene that proves your success, you are not daydreaming. You are selecting the reality you intend to occupy. This single scene becomes the anchor of your new financial identity. The key is simplicity. You do not need an elaborate vision filled with endless details. You need one crisp, powerful moment that captures the essence of "it is already done." Perhaps it is the sight of a payment confirmation glowing on your screen, the exact numbers you once only wished for now reflected back to you as fact. Maybe it is the sound of someone saying, "Congratulations, you did it," their voice filled with genuine excitement. It might even be the feeling of holding a check in your hands, its weight symbolic of your arrival into a new financial dimension. Whatever proves to you that the desire is fulfilled, that is your scene. This scene should not entertain you, it should define you. It has one purpose: to generate the feeling of completion. When you repeat it daily, it shifts from imagination to internal truth. You begin to accept it not as a possibility, but as a certainty. You start responding to life as the person for whom this scene is already normal. That is the transformative power of choosing a single, repeatable moment. Every time you enter it, you reinforce the identity that aligns with the financial abundance you seek. Let the scene come alive with the texture of reality. If you imagine a digital notification, see the exact font, the glow of the numbers, the soft vibration of your phone in your hand. If you imagine hearing words of celebration, Tune into the tone, the warmth, the rhythm of the voice speaking to you. If your scene involves physical sensation, feel the texture of the paper, the temperature of the room, the subtle shift in your posture as your body responds to the emotion of receiving. Do not attempt to force the vision into clarity. Allow it to reveal itself. Your mind is fully capable of presenting a vivid, living moment when you approach it with calm and openness rather than strain. As you experience this selected scene, inhabit it as though you are recalling a memory instead of creating a fantasy. Memory carries a different quality. It is grounded, familiar, unquestioned. Your task is to experience the scene with that same quality of inevitability. It is not something that might happen or could happen. It has already happened, and you are revisiting it because it carries emotional truth. This shift in perception is what transforms imagination into manifestation. When the mind believes it has already lived an experience, it reorganizes your inner world to match that belief, and your outer world follows accordingly. Feel the emotional undertone that arises from the scene. The image is important, but the feeling is the real creative force. Let the natural emotion of fulfillment rise within you. It may be satisfaction, relief, calm confidence, or quiet joy. This is not the explosive excitement of hoping something comes true. This is the grounded contentment of knowing it already has. This feeling is the signature of the new state you are establishing. The more you allow yourself to dwell in it, the more dominant this new state becomes in your consciousness, eventually overshadowing old beliefs of lack or delay. Repetition is essential, but not mechanical repetition. You are not looping a thought, you are re-entering a reality. Each time you play the scene, approach it with softness, like revisiting a cherished moment that never fails to warm you. 10 minutes spent in this inner act each day creates a powerful gravitational pull. The scene begins to feel more real than anything the external world might be showing you. When that happens, you know the shift is occurring. You know the inner world is becoming the blueprint the outer world must reflect. Do not analyze the scene while you are in it. Do not question whether you chose the right moment or whether it is vivid enough. The mere act of selecting and inhabiting a scene that implies fulfillment is sufficient. The mind works in quiet, unseen ways to convert imagination into fact. Your responsibility is to assume the end and let it unfold within you. This simple act, repeated consistently, becomes a declaration to your inner world that the financial outcome is settled. Eventually, the scene will feel so natural, so complete, that returning to your regular day will feel like stepping out of character. That is how you know the process is working. The old identity, one that lived in waiting, hoping, or striving, begins to dissolve. The new identity, the one who has already received, already succeeded, already risen into abundance, begins to govern your reactions, decisions, and expectations. The outer world cannot help but conform to this shift. When you practice this daily, the scene becomes more than an image. It becomes evidence. Evidence of a reality that is taking shape. Evidence of a financial transformation unfolding beneath the surface. Evidence that your assumption is already alive within you. This is why a single scene is so powerful. It concentrates your focus, stabilizes your emotional state, and anchors your mind in the experience of fulfillment. And once your inner world accepts something as fulfilled, the outer world always follows. A picture in the mind is motionless until you breathe emotion into it. The moment you add feeling, the moment you allow your inner world to respond as though the event has already taken place, you activate a creative force that reshapes your reality. Emotion is the bridge between imagination and manifestation. It is the living pulse that transforms a mental image into a magnetic state. When you imagine money as yours and let the natural emotions of fulfillment rise within you, you are doing far more than daydreaming. You are claiming the truth of a new identity. The emotion of completion is not something you force, it is something you allow. Begin by observing what your chosen scene represents. Perhaps it shows a debt cleared, a bank account growing, a message congratulating you on a financial breakthrough. Ask yourself, if this were happening right now, how would I feel? Not how you hope to feel someday, not how you think you should feel, but how you genuinely would feel if the event were unfolding at this very moment. That emotion is the key to everything. It is the signal that your inner world has accepted the new reality. Let relief wash through you as if the weight has already lifted. Feel the deep exhale that only comes when something long desired has been accomplished. Relief is powerful because it dissolves tension, and tension is the very thing that blocks manifestation. When you feel relieved, you are telling your mind that the work is finished. You are stepping out of the state of striving and into the state of having. Then there is gratitude, one of the most potent emotional states you can occupy. Gratitude is the emotional equivalent of saying, "It is done." When you feel thankful before the outer world gives you anything to be thankful for, you are demonstrating inner conviction. You are acknowledging that the unseen is just as real as the seen. Gratitude does not wait for evidence, it creates it. When you express gratitude for money before it appears, you invite it with confidence rather than desperation. Pride is another powerful emotional indicator of completion. Feel the quiet assurance of someone who has achieved something meaningful. Not arrogance, but a deep recognition that you rose, that you aligned, that you transformed. Imagine the moment you look at your finances and feel proud of the growth, proud of the decisions, proud of the new reality you inhabit. Pride reinforces identity. It tells your subconscious that you are someone who succeeds, someone who attracts opportunities, someone who is capable of experiencing abundance without struggle. And then there is joy, a natural overflow of fulfillment. Joy is expansive. It lifts your state, lightens your thoughts, and opens you to new possibilities. When you imagine the moment money arrives and allow true joy to inhabit your body, you elevate your vibration to match the frequency of abundance. Joy is not passive, it is generative. It multiplies the energy you send out, and the universe responds with the same momentum. As you explore these emotions, notice how they alter your internal environment. Feel how your posture changes, how your breathing shifts, how your mind quiets or sharpens. Emotion is not just a psychological event, it is a physiological signal communicating to your entire system that something has already occurred. When you feel the emotion of completion, your body behaves as though the result is present now. And when the body believes, the mind reinforces, and the outer world reorganizes to reflect it. Allow these feelings to expand gently. Do not push them or chase them. Let them arise naturally from the assumption that your desire is already fulfilled. If you imagine financial abundance and feel nothing, do not judge it. Simply soften into the scene. Repeat it. Refine it. Hold it long enough for emotion to naturally awaken. Sometimes the mind needs repetition to accept the new story. The moment it does, emotion will follow, and when emotion follows, manifestation accelerates. As you continue to practice this, you will notice that the emotion becomes easier to access. What once felt like an imagined feeling will begin to feel familiar, like a memory of something that has already happened. That is when you know you are aligning fully. The feeling of completion becomes your default state, and the outer world responds accordingly. Money does not come because you begged for it or because you strained for it. It comes because you embodied the emotional truth of already having it. In this state, doubts lose their power. Worries dissolve. You no longer look for signs because the feeling itself is the sign. The completion within you becomes more real than the circumstances around you. And when inner completion outweighs outer appearance must shift. Emotion is the architect of your new financial reality. Once you live in the feeling consistently, the results are inevitable. You are not waiting for abundance, you are expressing it from within. Dwell in the end, not the middle. This is the discipline that separates effortless manifestation from endless striving. When you dwell in the end, you anchor yourself in the finished outcome, the state where your desire is already accomplished. There is no tension there, no questions, no anxieties, because the result is already established. This is not wishful thinking. It is the conscious choice to occupy the reality that aligns with your desire rather than the one that contradicts it. The moment you allow yourself to live in the end, even for 10 minutes, you shift your entire inner atmosphere. You stop vibrating with the frequency of lack and begin radiating the certainty of fulfillment. The middle is where people lose themselves. They become entangled in the how, the endless analysis, the need for visible signs. They forget that the process is none of their concern. They try to force outcomes, calculate possibilities, or track timelines. But the middle carries no power. It is filled with unnecessary effort that signals doubt, not faith. The more you try to figure out the mechanics, the more you affirm that what you desire is not yet yours. Yet the moment you drop the middle and rest in the end, you create an internal environment where the result must unfold in physical form. Dwell in the end by feeling the stability of the outcome as if it is already part of your lived experience. When you imagine your financial desire fulfilled, imagine it with the emotional certainty of someone recalling an event from the past. Your mind does not question memories, it accepts them as facts. Treat the fulfillment of your desire the same way. Let it feel familiar, natural, complete. Do not imagine yourself hoping, reaching, or preparing for the result. Imagine yourself having already received it. Feel the calmness, the grounded confidence, the inner peace that comes from knowing the outcome is secure. Living in the end is not about forcing belief. It is about sinking into the feeling of completion so deeply that the old reality loses its grip on you. When you dwell in the end, you weaken the emotional ties that bind you to your current circumstances. You stop reacting to what you see around you because you understand it. It is only the shadow of a former state. Your new state, the end result, is the true creative force, and once you occupy it, your external conditions must eventually reshape themselves to match it. The world has no choice but to mirror your inner assumption. For 10 minutes, immerse yourself in the completed vision. Do not negotiate with doubts or analyze details. Rest in the fullness of the outcome. Imagine what you would feel waking up in the reality of financial abundance. Imagine the relief of bills resolved, the freedom of choices expanded, the confidence of knowing money flows to you with ease. Not someday. Now. Feel the shift in your chest, your breath, your posture. This is not play acting, this is conscious creation. For these 10 minutes, the end is your home. When the mind attempts to wander into the middle, when it tries to question, measure, or predict, gently guide it back. The middle is irrelevant. It is only a distraction that delays the expression of your desire. Keep returning to the feeling of completion. Let it become the most natural state you know. The more familiar the end feels, the faster it materializes. The universe does not respond to your wishes. It responds to your state. When you hold the state of the end, you become the magnet for its physical counterpart. Do not underestimate the power of 10 minutes. These 10 minutes are not measured by clock time, but by consciousness time. 10 minutes of dwelling in the end holds more creative potency than hours spent worrying, researching, or strategizing. In those quiet minutes, you elevate your internal identity to the version of you that already possesses what you desire. And once identity shifts, everything else must reorganize itself. The end is the only place where creation truly happens. When you dwell there consistently, you collapse the distance between the unseen and the seen. You stop living as someone waiting for a breakthrough and start living as someone whose breakthrough is already complete. Outer events simply fall into place because they are compelled to express the state you inhabit. Every time you dwell in the end, you reinforce the truth of the new reality. You carve a deeper imprint in your mind and emotional body. You activate the pathways through which abundance flows. You signal with absolute clarity that your desire is not a possibility but a certainty. Live in the end, not because you are escaping the present, but because you are shaping the future. Live in the end because your desire already exists in the unseen and is waiting for your acceptance. Live in the end because the moment you do, your world begins to shift in ways that feel effortless, natural, and increasingly aligned with your highest vision. 10 minutes in the end makes the impossible inevitable. Holding the state gently is one of the most subtle yet transformative practices you can ever develop. The moment you begin to imagine your financial desire as already fulfilled, your only responsibility is to relax into the experience. You do not need to grip the vision with intensity or force your mind into obedience. In fact, the tighter you try to hold it, the faster it slips away. Creation thrives in ease, not pressure. When you allow the scene to unfold naturally, you give it permission to breathe, to expand, and to take root within your consciousness without resistance. Imagine for a moment that your desire is already complete. Feel how soft, effortless, and natural that reality would be. When something is already yours, you do not chase it. You do not clench your mind in fear of losing it. You simply settle into the feeling of ownership, the feeling of it being normal. This is the essence of holding the state gently. It is the quiet confidence of knowing the result is already secured, even if the outer world has not yet shown proof. The outer world is always slower than your inner acceptance, and when you hold your state softly, you give it all the space it needs to take form. Let your imagined scene come to you like a memory you have lived 100 times. Memories do not require effort. You do not sweat or strain to recall them. They rise effortlessly, fully formed. In the same way, your fulfilled desire should feel like a remembered reality rather than a forced fantasy. When the scene becomes familiar and comfortable, your subconscious begins to treat it as truth. And when the subconscious accepts something as truth, the world has no choice but to rearrange itself to reflect it. Holding the state gently means releasing any attempt to control the timing or the mechanism. You are not responsible for orchestrating the path. You are responsible for dwelling in the consciousness of completion. The how and the when dissolve the moment you commit to the feeling of already having what you desire. If you attempt to manage the process, you shift your attention away from the end and back into lack. But when you stay soft, steady, and relaxed in your assumption, you remain aligned with the final outcome. And that alignment is what compels money to move toward you. Many people make the mistake of believing they must work hard mentally to sustain a vision. They push, they strain, they try to force the feeling into existence. But true creation does not arise from tension. It arises from acceptance. Tension comes from doubt, acceptance comes from conviction. When you relax into your desire, you demonstrate a deeper level of faith. You show that you trust the inner act more than the outer evidence. And this trust, this gentle holding, creates fertile ground for manifestation to unfold. Consider how water shapes stone, not through force, but through consistent, gentle contact. In the same way, your soft and persistent assumption carves a new reality into your subconscious. 10 minutes a day of effortless immersion is far more powerful than hours of strained visualization. When you touch the state lightly yet consistently, you build momentum without even realizing it. Each session strengthens the impression, deepens the conviction, and signals to your inner world that this is who you are now. Holding the state gently also means recognizing that the feeling of fulfillment does not require intensity, it requires continuity. It is not about creating a dramatic emotional experience. It is about living in quiet assurance. A fulfilled desire rarely feels dramatic. It feels settled. It feels complete. When you imagine your financial abundance with this soft certainty, you are already living as the person who possesses it. You are teaching your mind and body the emotional signature of wealth, and once that signature becomes familiar, your reality must adjust to match it. Let the feeling coexist with your daily activities. Do not lock it away and revisit it only during your 10-minute practice. Carry it with you in the same gentle manner you hold a memory or a knowing. When doubts arise, do not fight them. Simply redirect your attention back to the state of completion. Fighting creates tension. Returning creates mastery. Every time you softly return, you reinforce the truth that the end is already yours. Ultimately, holding the state gently is an act of self-trust. It is choosing to believe that the inner work is enough, that imagination is the true creative force, and that money flows not to those who strain for it, but to those who assume its presence with calm conviction. Your quiet confidence is the magnet. Your relaxed belief is the invitation. Your gentle holding is the open door through which abundance enters. When you practice this consistently, 10 minutes of effortless immersion each day, you build an inner momentum that becomes unstoppable. You stop chasing money and money begins gravitating toward you. Your energy shifts from striving to receiving, from forcing to allowing, from hoping to knowing. And once you reach that internal shift, the physical world cannot resist responding. Abundance must come because you are no longer requesting it. You are embodying it. When you open your eyes after those 10 minutes, the most crucial moment begins. This is where many people unknowingly break the bridge between their inner work and their outer reality. They slip back into old patterns, old thoughts, old emotional habits, and without realizing it, they cancel the transformation they just created. But your task is different. Your task is to return to the world as the self you assumed during your inner vision. The moment you stand up, you walk out as someone entirely renewed. You do not return to your day trying to figure out how money will come. You do not analyze whether the exercise worked. You do not entertain doubts, fears, or old stories of limitation. Those no longer belong to the identity you just stepped into. You have taken on a new financial self-concept, and it must become the lens through which you see, feel, and respond to everything. Imagine you had just been given undeniable proof that a large sum of money is already secured for you. On its way, guaranteed. How would you move? How would you breathe? How would your posture look? How would you approach your job, your responsibilities, your decisions? That is the energy you carry with you. It is not pretend. It is the natural continuation of the inner state you cultivated. This is not performance, this is embodiment. If you allow yourself to return to the world unchanged, the exercise remains a momentary fantasy. But when you insist on maintaining the identity of someone who already possesses financial ease, your imagination begins to solidify into experience. You begin responding to life as the version of you who already lives in abundance. And your world has no choice but to reorganize itself to match the self you are being. Notice the small opportunities that arise throughout the day to reinforce your new identity. Maybe you receive an unexpected idea. Maybe someone says something that aligns with your vision. Maybe you choose a different reaction than you once would have. These are not coincidences. They are reflections of the consciousness you are holding. The world mirrors you moment by moment, and as you change your inner stance, those reflections shift. When financial worries try to creep back in, and they will, because the old self will attempt to reclaim its place, you do not fight them. You simply recognize that those thoughts belong to a version of you that no longer exists. You gently redirect yourself back to the feeling of the one who already has. You remind yourself of the completeness of the state you assumed during your 10-minute exercise. You carry that sense of completion through each step of your day. Think of yourself as an actor who has stepped fully into a role, not just on stage, but off stage, in rehearsal, in the hallway, everywhere. The role is not something you visit. It becomes the identity you live in until it hardens into your reality. In the same way, you move through the world as the person who has already achieved financial flow. And as you hold this internal alignment, the external world gradually bows to it. What happens when you maintain this transformed state? You become less reactive and more deliberate. You stop making decisions from fear or scarcity. You begin to trust your impulses because they arise from a consciousness aligned with abundance. You notice opportunities that once blended into the background. You feel guided, supported, and equipped. This is not luck. This is the inevitable expression of a new self-concept. When conversations about money arise, you no longer shrink or doubt. You respond with confidence, not forced, but naturally. because it comes from the truth of your inner identity. When bills appear, you no longer panic. You see them as temporary appearances in a reality already shifting toward financial overflow. When challenges arise, you face them not as someone trying to get ahead, but as someone who already is ahead. People around you may sense the shift even before you fully articulate it. They may notice a calmness about you, a certainty in your tone, a groundedness in the way you move. They may not understand where it comes from, but you do. It comes from the quiet power of knowing your inner work has already set the wheels of manifestation in motion. You are walking through the world as the fulfilled version of yourself, and that identity carries an unmistakable presence. Returning to the world transformed means refusing to negotiate with the old you. It means not explaining your vision, not seeking reassurance, not checking for signs. Signs come after the state is solidified, not before. Your responsibility is to hold the state. The world will deliver the confirmation in its own way, at its own time, but always with precision. As the hours pass, your task is simple: remain in character. Stay anchored in the calm assurance that your financial reality is already unfolding in your favor. When the old self whispers doubt, you acknowledge it but do not accept it. You gently return to your inner knowing. This repetition, this unbroken commitment to the new identity, is what turns inner imagery into outer abundance. Eventually, maintaining this state becomes effortless. It becomes who you are. You stop trying to manifest money and start expressing the consciousness of someone for whom money arrives naturally. This is the transformation that matters. This is the bridge between imagination and manifestation. And it begins the moment you open your eyes and choose to walk through the world as the financially empowered version of yourself. Hold that identity, and the world will meet you there. End your 10 minutes with gratitude, not as a mechanical gesture, but as an inner declaration that the work is already complete. Gratitude is not something you perform. It is something you feel from the depths of your being. It is the emotional signature of certainty. When you reach the point where you can give thanks for something you have not yet touched physically, you demonstrate that you have accepted it fully in consciousness. And once something is accepted inwardly, its outer expression becomes inevitable. Gratitude is the quiet proclamation that you no longer question the outcome. You are not operating from hope or anticipation. You are operating from fulfillment. In that moment of heartfelt appreciation, you align yourself with the version of you who already possesses what you have imagined. You feel as they feel. You think as they think. You breathe in the reality that has already unfolded in the unseen. This inner alignment is what draws the physical experience into your life with speed and precision, because the world must always mirror the state you consistently occupy. To give thanks before the evidence appears requires a subtle but powerful shift. It means you no longer rely on your senses to validate your success. You allow the unseen to be more real to you than the seen. When you reach this level of inner conviction, your gratitude becomes a signal, an unmistakable vibration, that you have crossed the threshold from wanting into receiving. You are no longer the one requesting abundance, you are the one acknowledging it. In these moments of gratitude, let the emotion rise naturally. Feel it in your chest, your breath, your whole body. Let it saturate your imagination. Picture yourself holding the result you have long desired, and allow the same gratitude you would have in that moment to fill you now. If you would be relieved, feel that relief. If you would feel joy, let that joy move through you. If you would feel peace, let that peace settle into every corner of your awareness. Gratitude is not the final step. It is the magnetic force that locks the new reality into place. This inner thanksgiving should feel like a quiet certainty, a gentle knowing, a settled truth. You are not trying to convince yourself. You are simply acknowledging what has already been created in consciousness. This acknowledgement is what bridges the gap between imagination and physical form. You are telling yourself in the most direct way possible that the manifestation already exists. You are merely waiting for time to reveal what is already true. As you continue to saturate your mind with gratitude, you weaken the grip of doubt. Doubt cannot survive in an atmosphere of appreciation. Fear collapses under the weight of genuine thankfulness. When you give thanks, you shift your focus from what appears to be missing to what is already present in the invisible. And the moment your focus changes, your reality begins to reorganize itself around that new point of attention. Gratitude clears the path. It removes resistance. It invites momentum. Let the gratitude extend beyond the specific desire you imagined. Give thanks for the unfolding of your life, for the stability that surrounds you, for the possibilities constantly emerging on your behalf. This broader gratitude strengthens the inner state, giving it depth and resilience. It creates an emotional environment in which abundance is natural, where receiving becomes effortless. As you practice this daily, something extraordinary happens. You begin to feel grateful spontaneously, without effort, without prompting. Gratitude becomes your natural response to life. You wake up with a sense of quiet appreciation, move through your day with a grounded confidence, and rest at night with a feeling of assurance. This shift is the true manifestation, because a grateful mind is a receptive mind. A grateful heart is an open channel. When gratitude becomes habitual, abundance becomes inevitable. Your gratitude also signals closure. It signifies that your inner work is complete. You do not leave your meditation with lingering questions or doubts. You walk away knowing the seed is planted, the roots have taken hold, and the growth is guaranteed. You do not dig up the seed to check its progress. You trust the process. Gratitude gives you that trust. It releases you from the need to control or analyze. It allows you to let the manifestation unfold in the best way, through the best channels, at the best time. And as you carry this gratitude into the rest of your day, you become aligned with opportunities you would have otherwise overlooked. Your mind becomes clear, receptive, attentive. You notice ideas that feel inspired. You recognize moments that match the state you embodied during your 10 minutes of inner work. Gratitude is not passive. It is highly active. It sharpens your awareness and moves you into alignment with the next step of your unfolding prosperity. When you give thanks as confirmation, you take full authorship of your reality. You no longer wait for external validation. You no longer measure your progress through appearances. Instead, you operate from a deeper truth. What is accepted within must express without. Giving thanks seals that acceptance. It finalizes the creation. It completes the internal act. So end your 10 minutes with genuine appreciation. Let the gratitude rise naturally and fill you completely. Know that what you have imagined is already established, and that your thanksgiving is the evidence of your belief. Gratitude is the final act of faith, the quiet assurance that transforms the invisible into the visible and draws the wealth you have claimed swiftly into your world.